Hello guys, hello everyone, hope you are doing great. Welcome to our new tutorial, and today we are going to build a movie app based on the MovieDB API, which is an API that will provide us a list of movies. And for this tutorial, we are going to use TDD, Clean Architecture, and Bloc. If you are ready and if you like movie, of course, let's do it. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe too. Thanks. We've reached 1K members in our Telegram communities with such amazing developers. Don't forget to join us and enjoy learning new things. Yeah, first of all, let's talk about the API we are going to use in our project. Before dive directly in the code and talk about the architecture and other things, we need to sign up first to this website if you want, and then later just click on the login button and we will be redirected to our account, of course. And yeah, now let's take a look to our API and how to get an API key, because we will need some API key before using this API. So you will just need to click on settings here, and then you will be redirected to this page and click on the API, and you will see API key just there. So these are going to be my API key. Of course, I don't suggest you to use mine, because after this tutorial I will change it. So it will be better if you can just create your own accounts and use your own API. And for our project, we are going to use three main functionality provided by this API, which will be search trading app, display trading app, please, and then search some movie just by requiring and using some queries. And the last one will be to display some popular movies. Yeah. And if you want to check just the documentation, you can just click directly on this link, developer.moviedb.org, which will direct you from this page, and you will see all the API you want to check. So now that we have our API key just there, let's move on to the architecture that we will see how to use it and how we are going to structure our project. So our project will be divided in three main layers, and because we are going to use clean architecture, the aim is to separate our business logic from the UI and the widget. So for that, we are going to have presentation layer first, and presentation layer is going to have widget, page, and block, which will be our state management source. And this one, we are going to have our UI and widget, and we also have our domain layers, and our domain layers will contain our business logic and entities. And the last one is data layers, of course, and in this part we are going to fetch and make a conversion about some API or local sources. Now let's move to our editor and code. So I have created an empty project called movie app, and we are going to use this one, from scratch. So we are going to build the app together. So yeah, we are going to create this file. So we are going to start with presentation layer. I mean, there is no order, so you can start by whatever you want. It is just an sample initialization. So inside presentation, we are going to have widget layers. We are going to have pages for our pages, and we will have, for this project, I'm going to use Bloc, because with Bloc you can test your code very easily. But if you are using provider or other kind of state management, you can also use whatever suits you. And yeah, we are going to add the domain layer. Inside domain layer, we are going to have our all business logic. So we are going to have entities and also repo repository. And inside the repository in domain layer, it is just an interface, but in Dart we call it abstract class, which we are going to use to extend other repository which is in the data layer. But I have already have discussion during the past video, because some people mentioned the fact that why are we using abstract class? We are using abstract class because it will help us to be compatible with Dart version 2 and 3, but I'm going to make another tutorials and I will explain what is the difference between abstract, interface, and other new classes used by Dart 3. So yeah, in this tutorial we are going to use this one. So yeah, let's also add use cases, and the last one we are going to have data, and inside data we can just copy paste this folder. We are going to create also models, and the last one, sure, we will need data sources. In the data sources folder we are going to have local, if we want to work with some local data sources, and we can put them there in data sources and also with our API. So now I'm going to add some dependencies, and just let's add HTTP and Mockito for which will help us during our testing, because we are going to use or try to apply TDD for our tutorials. So yeah, and I'm going to just run pip-get and make sure everything is good. Okay, so great. We have installed our dependencies we need. Of course, we are going to add other dependencies later during the tutorials. And now I'm going to show you the API response. So if you create your account, you will just use your API key. Of course, you don't need to use directly your API key and put it directly in your code. But yeah, for this tutorial, I will let you just look at it and create your own API key. And yeah, for example, to fetch out trending movies, we are going to have this kind of response, and you can have parameter as ID, title, original title overview, which will be the description, and also poster path, which will help us to get our image path. So it is almost the same. The result for this API is almost the same with when you try to use search movie. And yeah, for example, in this case, I just put Black Panther for those who have already watched it, and we got different response, all with same parameter as the first one, and the last, or our third API call, is just movie slash popular, which return us the most popular movie. And yeah, and we are going to use those parameters and try to create our entity directly in our code. So let's just go to the domain layer and try to initialize movie classes directly. So here in our domain entities, I'm going to create a new class. So I will call it movie here, and I'm going, based just on our API result, I'm not going to use all the fields you have there. I'm just going to pick some of them, like ID, title, path, and if I need it, I will add other letter. So yeah, let's start by initialize. We are going to use ID, title also, of course overview, and let's add last one, poster path, and we are going to create a constructor. Of course, can just put them like this. And here, so now we have just initialized our entity directly, and now we are going to define in our repository what kind of function we are going to need. So just here in our repository, yes, just one thing, I didn't, if you look at my entities, in my entities, I didn't try to parse anything here, because the aim in the domain layer is to just have our business logic. So we are going to parse our API result later in data source in data layer. So let's just continue with our repository in the domain. So I'm going to create movie repository.dat, and this one I'm just going to create abstract class called movie repository. I forgot to add in there. And we are going to have three main functions, like mentioned before. We are going to have trending movies. Also, we are going to have search movies. And the last one will be to get popular movies. And in the search movie, of course, we are going to pass some query. So let's just initialize some query, and all of them are going to return a list, because if you just came here, we are going to have a list of movie and in our result. So yeah, so I'm going to just copy paste this here and here. So now at this point we got our repository there, and now we got two options. If you want to continue, we can just continue by following a more general clean architecture flow without script TDD, and for that we can just delve directly in the data and try to create entity models, a repository, and also we can just try to implement directly in use case. But in this tutorial, we want to delve into how we can use TDD for implementation. So we are going to try as possible to use TDD for the rest of our tutorials. So now let's just move to our test and try to create our first test. And in the TDD, the fundamental idea of TDD is to write a falling test first, then try to make it pass, and if needed, try to refactor it. So for that, let's just dive directly in our test. Yeah, we are going with our test, but before that, we are going to just create our domain use cases folder, and inside this one, we are going to create our first test file called get trending, because we are going to test, of course, get trending movie first, then search movie, and later get popular movie. And Don't forget to add underscore test.dart for each test file we are going to create. And here, once this file is, our create, we are just going now to initialize our function, and let's just call get trending movies. We are going to have our use case, and of course we are going to have our mock repository, and this mock repository we are going to initialize it just there, and we are going to use mock repository from our test because we can't directly just use repository abstract class just here. We need to create a mock because we didn't have the correct implementation of this one. So yeah, and what we want to test there is just to make sure that when we called our use case get trending movie, this one will return us a list of movie, so let's just get a title to our first test, and we can say should get trending movie from the repository. And in this one, we are going I will just write the code first. Get trending movie. Then under and here we are going maybe to have a list, but what we want to do in our test is first of all to pass a custom, or if I can call it like that, a custom list which we will custom just in few minutes, and to get trending movies. So when we code our repository, it will return us our mock, and then we are going to just initialize like the final result when we want to call our use case just there, this one. And finally, we are going in our asset, for example, we are going to compare if the result we expected will be the same with our custom list. And this list, I'm going to replace it just in a few minutes. But let's just take a look for mock movie repository. Mock movie repository, for example, we need to initialize some repository because our movie repository is just an abstract class, and we didn't have right implementation in our data sources. So now we just need to mock it, and for that I will need to use the package we had already installed we already had in our dependencies, which is Mockito. So yeah, I will just import I will just try to import Mockito directly here. So yeah, and for test, I'm going to import flutter test, and now we are going to call the function setup. And what setup does is we are going to initialize those variables we just create there. Don't be afraid for this red line. We are going to fix it later, but it is normal because we haven't implemented yet the get trending movie in our use case, and that is the first reason which we are just beginning with the test. So the test will drive us to implement the right function later. So let's just initialize our repository there. And just little disclaimer, I want for those who are using Dart version 3, for example, if you didn't want to create this class, there is Mockito package provide us to generate directly some mock. So we can just check the documentation and just try to add builder runner package, and then later you will just run some command and it will generate you directly a mock class. But I'm trying to use this method so it can be compatible with people who are using Dart version 2 and also people who are using Dart version 3. So yeah, and we are going to initialize get trending movie, and get trending movie will need, of course, mock movie as injection dependencies. So we need to inject this dependency. So now let's just delve in our code directly. Here we will need to initialize a custom list. So let's call tmovie list, for example, and list one we are going to use our entities. Okay, let's just add this movie one, for example, and disk one, example image one, and we can add also a second, for example. So yeah, now we got tmovie list just here, and he say the return type is okay. We need to return, so we need to add a keyword async, and for this await we are going to add async also there. And okay, the error say there is no nullable local variable. That is normal, so we just need during the initialization just to add late. And our use case there, it is normal because we are not using it for now, but let's just add some. I will add those lines and explain to you just in a few minutes. So these two lines, so the first line mean that we are verifying the fact that in this test, the only function we are just calling is get trending movie. So it will help us to make sure that there won't be another data came from another function. And the last one, verify no interaction, mean that okay, we really called get trending movie, and he's the only one function we called in our test. So for example, if we decide to run flutter test. Of course, we are going to have some error. Yeah, is we got, yeah, that is normal here. Let's just rerun it again. So we are seeing that when we are running flutter test, it shows us what the error is. And in our case, they say error get trending moving isn't a type. So that is normal because we haven't created like any get trending movie file yet. So now we are just going to create our first use case, just called. Let's go to our use case, and yeah, we are just going to create get trending movies. And for this one, I'm going to create get trending movie class, and he's going to have he's going to call the repository, final, and initialize. We need to create a constructor here, and now we are going to use some function in Dart, which is the call function. So the call function is the function when we call the class directly without initializing any function, it will call this function, and in Dart we call this function like call, so so this function are going to return repository dot get trending movie, and get trending movie we initialize just there. But if you remember, we need to set what kind of type they are going to return, and they are going to return the list dot movie. So let's just import there here, and of course we need yes. And now we are going just to import get movie there, and let's just try to run our test again. It's trying to build. We got some errors, and it means should get trending from repository new is not subtyped of get. So to fix these errors, we are going to replace this line with the generated mock from package Mockito. So let's add build runner version 2.5, but you can add the version which is very compatible with your system. And we are going to delete this line and just call there is keyword generate nice mock from Mockito package directly, and this one I'm going to replace it with our movie repository. Then I'm just going to comment this line first and let's try to generate file. Okay, this here test get reading movie test. Try fixing this error. Yeah, okay, that's normal. We need to import. Let's get the name to this file. We will call it movie repository.mock.dart. Okay, let's just import this line annotation and we run our command, and so if everything is good, during this time we got our file which is generate, and we can just delete this line. We got our file auto-generate called get trending movie test, and it is the mock based on movie repository, and now we can just import this one directly. And now if we decide to run flutter test, of course during this time our code are going to pass, so I can just remove my print and rerun it. So all tests passed. Great. It means that our use case are working pretty well, and now we are going to implement search movie and get popular movie, because there is two functions we didn't add yet. If you want, we can just make a pause for this video, try to implement it and make a play to see if you are doing great as me, or let's just continue and add these two functions. So now we are going to do the same with search movie and get popular movie. Let's just continue with get popular movie first, because it is pretty similar to what we have just done. And yeah, get popular movie .dart, and we forgot to add, don't make this mistake as me, but let's add underscore test, and we are going to, we can copy almost this, and we are going to replace this by get popular movie. Now we are going we can just import because it is the same mock file which we provide us. And for state up, we can call flutter test, and let's import entity movie also. For Mockito, it will be define is annotation try to define name notation. Yeah, right. And so the implementation of get popular movie are going to be pretty similar, because if you remember in Postman we saw that the response is pretty similar, so we didn't need to change our response there. We can just verify and say should get popular movie from the repository. And here we are going to change the function and call get popular movie and pass the movie list to this. Our use case are going to be get popular movie. Of course it is red because we didn't implement it yet, and at the end we are going to expect the result to be the same as we provide in the when, and the two line also to make sure that we just call get popular movie only in this test and make sure it was the only function which provides all the data we are waiting for. So now let's create in our use case get popular movie file. So get popular movie.dart, and for this one we can just copy paste if you want, and to replace get popular movie, and we are going to import here. We can replace, we can delete and generate our constructor. So movie repository, we can just import it, and there we are going to return get popular movies, of course. And in our test we can now import get popular movie and just run this test to make sure this one is passing. You say okay, everything is good, and if you want to run all your tests you can just type flutter test and it will run to tests we have already passed. So yeah, now we are going to add the last one, which is search movie, and continue with it. Sure, now we are going to add the last one, and it is search movie. So search, yeah, let's just call it search movie test to that. And for this one we are going to have almost the same. Let's make the good import first. So we are going to import annotation and repository also, and let initialize our variable, and we are going to call it get search, or let's just call it search movies, and yeah, our setup here. So and during this time there are going to be like a small difference, but let and search movie also are going to return the list of movie. So let's just create our test and call it test. The description should be the description to be to get movie, for example, from the query. If you remember, in search movie we are going to pass query as parameters, so the description to be should get movie from query from the repository also. And here we are just going to let's just copy what we have done inside and make the code import. So in our case we are going to call search movie, but like we mentioned, search movie are going to have parameters. So in our case we are going to say any parameter we are going to pass to search movie, this one need to return us a list of movie, and our use case are going to take this time a parameter. So let's call it, for example, query, and this query should be we can declare, you can initialize it as string because it is string, and put, for example, reception, and yeah, and we are going to make sure that we just call this function during this test. So now our goal is to create our use case, and let's create our use case. So we are going to have search movie dot dart, and for example we are just going to replace this one, search movie, which also take repository as parameters, and we return movie, and this case I don't know why he didn't let's make sure we got that is normal. Wait, forgot to import the repository, my bad. And yeah, you're going just, but now, like we mentioned, we need to pass a parameter. So in our case, we are going to add a string in the call, and we can call it as we want, you know. For example, let's just call it query, and yeah, So this one mean here in search movie. Now when we are calling our use case, let's just import the implementation first. And for example, if we didn't pass anything there and I run flutter test, we are going to have some tests who failed, but let's just run. Who say too few positional argument. So our use case need one argument and we need to pass our query there. So for example, if I rerun this test, this should pass. So now we got our test which passed, and this function is almost the same like calling usecase.call, and this function are going to call this. So we really doesn't need to call or to use .call. You can just let it like this. And now if you want to make sure all your tests is good, you can just run flutter test. And here now we got all tests passed, and once these use cases are setting up like this, we can say that we have a solid domain layer ready. So now our next step will be to delve directly in the data layers, so we can provide a good implementation for the repository method and integrate the movie DB API. So yeah, let's do it. Yes, now we are going to delve directly into our data layer, and in data layer we are going to work mainly on the models, also data sources. For example, if we have local and remote data, so we are going to create two subfolder directly in the data sources to manage and to fetch our data from local and the remote, and then in the repository we are going to merge them and just work with data as we want to use it in our presentation layer. So yeah, now we are going to start with our model. So let's just create our model. So let's just call it movie models, and in our model we are just going we can extend our model class with entities, but we are not going to do it. In our cases, we are going to try to separate the logic between them, and just by adding two main functions which will help us to convert the JSON data to movie models, and also to convert movie models into JSON. So yeah, let's just add those functions. So in this case, we are going to just use JSON, and yeah, let's just JSON here. And here, so these functions are going to help us to convert JSON into movie models, and we are going to add another one which are going to help us to convert movie model to JSON, of course. So just, and I forgot to add string. And we are going to return our field we have. So yeah, now we are just done with our models. Now we are going to work on our data sources, and in our data sources we are going to start with the test. So we are going to continue with our logic with TDD, like making our test, and if it fails, use our test to build or to just create our data source file and try to make our test pass. Then make sure that everything are going as we want. So in our test, we are going to make sure that we are going to test some cases, like for example, make sure that the statue code returned by API are good. If not, they can throw an exception. So yeah, let's just create a test and begin with that. So for that, to make sure everything is going well, we are going to create a new folder inside our test folder. So let's just create data, and I can create data sources, for example. So yeah, and inside data sources, we are just going to create like movie remote data sources test, and don't forget to add the keyword test at the end of your test file. So data source, don't need to put, yeah, great. So inside our test, we are going to begin with just our main function. And inside our main function, I'm just going to write, yeah, just let's try to find a popular movie. Yeah, I'm going to take this code because we are just going to mock our HTTP request, and you are going to understand why. But let's just try to remove all of this, and yeah, sure, mock spec. Yeah, so now we need to import HTTP as HTTP. Now it is normal if we don't. Now we need to, I'm just going to take some command so I can just copy paste it here. Yeah. And don't forget to just remove unnecessary, yeah, for example, if not, we are going to have some error, and in this way too. So I'm going to run this command to generate a mock of HTTP client, because we are going to need it for our test. So we got some errors there, and he said must be constrained current inside variable. Let's just make sure. Just make sure we didn't. Just make the good import there and remove unnecessary import. So let's clean this code a little. It will avoid us to have yeah, of course. So because these three use cases are just using the same mock test, and it is normal. And so for this one, I'm going to try to run it again to see if everything are going to pass well, or if we got some errors. Popular movie. Get popular movie. Get popular. Oh, okay, that's normal. Yes, we need to remove this. Let's just remove trending movie because we didn't need it. And here we are just going to put HTTP client directly, because in Flutter documentation they say that to mock our HTTP request we just need to call it like this. And if we decide to run now, hoping everything are going to work well as we expect. And it is normal because we didn't let's say movie remote. Yeah, let's just make sure we are using the good package. Yes, they can't work like this. So we need okay. Now it looks great. Yeah, we have passed the most difficult part. I mean, so we can continue. And now for those who didn't understand, you don't need to be afraid. I'm going to explain it, yeah, clearly. So now we are going to just, like we used to do, we are going to define our movie remote data sources, and this one are going to be red for now because it is normal. We haven't implemented yet in our data source. So let's just write our code like client. We are going to call our HTTP client, for example. Yeah. So now we can just define our hook. Yes. And our data source are going to be, and sure, I think we are going to pass our client, which is mock HTTP client. But for now, we didn't have movie remote data source or movie remote data source implementation. So let's just continue with the code for now. And we are going to write our first code. And what we want to test for now is if we make a request on our base URL, if you can get trending movie. So we are going to start with trending movie, and yeah, let's just should perform a get, for example, and get request on to get trending movies. So in this one, we are going to make our mock. So for now, let's just write for example, our API response. Of course, I'm going to change it later, but yeah. And we are going to our data sources, and of course we are going to call later our trending movies function, and what we want to compare here is to verify if we really use our URL. So let's just call this one are going to so we got a sync function there. So yeah, now we are going, this seems pretty good, but of course, if we want to run it, for example, let's just run our code. Of course, these are going to fail because we didn't, you haven't implemented our remote data sources for now. So yeah. So our code are not going to pass, but now we are going, let's just make some disclaimer or little explanation. Why am I using remote data sources here and remote data sources implementation? The difference between them is, in this case, we want to make sure that our data sources are going just to be abstract class. So we define the type as abstract class, and the implementation will be the extent or implemented by abstract class. For example, if tomorrow we want to make another test, and in this time we want to just check, for example, movie local data source implementation, the movie local data source implementation also are going to be the same type as remote, for example. So that is the reason that we are going to create abstract class first. So let's just begin by create a new file directly in our data sources and call it, we are going to call it like movie remote data source. Yes, so this one are going to be just abstract class movie remote data sources, and this one are going to have 3 functions. So the 3 functions are going to be, of course, get trending movies, which are going to return a list of movie models, and we are going to have also search movies, and the last one are going to get popular movies. So each of these functions are going to throw some exception. For example, if we didn't have 2000 as statute code, but we are going to check it later. So now, once we got our abstract class, let's create a remote folder. And inside remote folder, now we are going to just add the implementation. So movie remote data sources implementation. And inside the implementation are just going to be implemented by our abstract class. So let's just create. I'm going to let's import our class. So now let's say we need to implement 3 functions, and I mean that is normal, but before that let's just initialize our HTTP client. I mean, maybe we can just HTTP. Let me just check on the Flutter documentation, and we are going to define our client. Yes. So let's just create a constructor. So now, of course, we are going to have our base URL. And there we are going to have our API key. So I'm just going to copy. Here we got and our API key, which is here. You can just copy paste directly. Of course, little reminder, just use your own API key, because at the end of this tutorial I'm going to change mine. So if you want to test your code, yeah. So get popular movie. Let's just implement the function directly. So in this case, we are just going to fetch the URL directly. As for example, on the Postman, we got the URL. So we are going to fetch our URL and try just to get the response and parse the response with movie models. So yeah, let's just do it. Response. So let me just copy the popular. So I'm going to have the base URL slash movie slash popular API key. And now, and that is normal. I return future, so I need to call the async function. And now let's check just of course, we are going to verify if it is a list. And now we are going to convert, to pass the response, and then to return a list. So I just return movies here. So, and for example, if we got some errors, we are going to return a string, for example, errors, but we are going to change this line just later. So string cannot be from the method. Yeah, that's normal. So it means now we need to throw the error, but to do that, we are going to create on the exception which can catch the error. So let's just, for example, say we are going to throw, and let's call it server exception. And this one show the error. So we are going to create just and let's call it errors, for example, and we are going to create a server exception class directly here, so it will help us to catch our error. So let's call it server exception. Yeah. So this is going to return server error occurred, for example. So we are just going to use the same for all functions. So let's just, now we can try to import and also import the data source implementation. So in our case, we just do we do the same with popular movie, but it's are going to be the same with trending movie, for example. So let's just throw, yeah. And for this one, trending movie, we are going to be different. So let me just copy past it. Yeah, okay. So we got slash trending movie, the API. Just make sure everything is good. And here we are going to return a movie, and these are going to be the same with search movie, but the little difference, if you remember, search movie, we need to pass a query. So let's just define our query there and replace also our base where and we got some errors. So with search movie, and parameter, so search movie isn't a valid of remote. And why does we get okay, let's just comment this section first, and we are going to test step by step what we have just implemented in our test first. Oh, okay. And yeah, of course, we can't, and that is normal. So here in our test, we are going now to add the exception test, and then we are going to test. Let's just copy this, and for example, let's say we are going to throw a server exception when the response code is 4004, for example, and let's return 4004. And this we need to call final. Okay, just to make sure everything is good. And here we are going to have, yes, except going to be different. And we are going to throw error. So now we need to just verify if we are going to really get server exception. So that is normal. But if I run the test, let's run the test again. Let's just stop this test and try just to run this one directly. Okay, that is normal. We got multiple errors. Yeah, so I have just create one variable called TURL and replace the mock URL with the good one. This one, for example, is I can call it I call it TURL, but it is for trending, T for trending. And here, for example, I can just let's just great. So and I also had one exception just there. For example, I forgot, so I put this first, and the test helped me. For example, when I wrote, let me show you. Yeah, so for example, they say one test failed, and they say the null type null is not subtype of type string. So when I just click on the there. So I just remember that I haven't write the good variable name, so let's just change it. And now let's rerun flutter test, and yeah, now all the tests are pretty good. So now we got something interesting. We can do the same with we can do the same should get from trending. We can do the same with popular, for example, and these are going to be almost the same. You can just copy paste if you want and replace trending by popular, and there we can just replace with p URL and make sure that you are calling get popular. And yeah, going to change this one. Our sample API, we didn't change it because the response it is almost the same. So we are going just to change the with popular one. Let's just copy this and replace trending. We are going to replace with yeah. So let's just run and see if everything is good. Now all our test is great. Now we are going to do the same with search, movie, and here. So let's do it. We are going to just uncomment our first code. If you remember, first I just need to yes. Now we are going to see what happened, and the implementation say movie remote data sources implementation, search movie list, string query isn't available. Oh, okay, that's normal. And I mean in data sources, if you remember, we forgot to add string query as parameter. So now if we want to test, so get on search movie, for the search movie, if you remember when we were building our search movie here during our use case, we pass some parameter. So but in this case, for example, we didn't need, we are just going to use let's just delve into the implementation and took the right. So let's call it SURL and just replace yeah. So the query this time, or sure, I can say can just use, for example, what have used during last time, or you can write any, for example, there. So search movie. We are going to make sure that everything is good. Now if I run my test, we got some error and they say missing get no turbos found. To search movie, it means missing. Yeah, that is normal because you see, so for example, we miss our test and we got some error which say that is not normal because you say you are waiting for popular movie, but the response is pretty different. So let's just go search, and yeah, of course, for example, we can just create yeah, so you can just call it like this and try to rerun just our code. Now we got some errors and this thing. So I'm going just to run flutter test. So now all the tests passed and the problem was just to replace fine or like constant. So here, and I was previously called the query after the error, but that is no, I mean, it's no logic. So just need to call it before, and then in your request when you are searching movies, you just need to make sure that you call the good function search movie, and yeah, of course, just verify, and if yes, if everything is good, just run flutter test, and I mean all your tests are going to pass. So yeah, now we are done with our data source for now. We are going to pass on the repository, and then when we are finished with repository, we're going to work on the presentation or UI design. So yeah, let's continue. Great. Now we are going to work on the repository. So the repository are going to be the part which we are going to mix if we were working on local data sources and remote data sources together. It are going to be the parts we are going to mix both of them and just try to return the value we want to use directly in our UI implementation, or for example, if we want to catch some errors, we are going to just catch them directly with, for example, we can handle the kind of exception with server failure, or yeah. But let's just delve directly in by starting our text by creating, for example, we are going to create a subfolder, and this subfolder are going to be our repository. Yes, like we create our file just there, it are going to be the same. So now inside our repository, we are going to create our first implementation repository. So let's just call it movie repository implementation test. So yeah, this is our first let's just dev. Yeah. So in this case, as usual, now we are going to create our main. We are going to, let's call it repository implementation, repository Bloc movie remote data source, and this one we are going to create our mock just later, like we used to do in our domain use cases or data source. So the logic are going to be the same, but for now let's just try to write yeah. So great. Now we are going to set up directly. Just copy this. So we're going to be simple. Yeah. For now, we didn't have this one initialized, so that is the reason that he is red. But repository. Yeah. So we are going, of course, so now let's just try to write some tests, even if those tests are going to fail, but that is the main goal of TDD. So our first test, now we are going to just test should get for example, we are going to test how trending movie how kind of data we are going to get if you just called repository dot get trending movie, for example. So let's just call it should get trending movies from the remote data source. So this one, we are going to create a variable just which will be which are going to be like this one, but yes. So what we expect to have when we will call our repository just later, by get trending movie, we are going to expect our result. So we are going to make sure that the result when you want to, so I'm using a weight, so let's just add async here as keyword. So our results when we will call our repository.get trending movie are going to return are going to be equal to our T movie list. So let's just copy this one here. So we are going to make sure that we are parsing everything well. So yeah. So these are going to be the first text if we want to check trading movie, for example. But let's just make sure that we are going to use the good function. So in our mock, we are going to just call get trending movie function only. And of course, what we want to do is to make sure that these tests are going to work not only on our trending movie, but are going to work on our popular movie. So for example, if I want like this, so let's just make sure they are going to work. They're going to be the same. And for example, the last one will be the search movie, but this one, as usual, are going just so have parameters. So for example, if I just want to copy I can say, for example, yeah, let's just try to and by passing the good parameter and just make sure that we are going to have this. But we need now to before this code we can just run it. Of course these are not going to work, but for example in our case we need as usual to create a mock for our mock remote data. So let's just create a mock. Yes. So now let's just copy this. We are going to generate the mock of movie remote data source. So let's just copy it there, and we are going also to import like always annotation and remote data source. And now we are going just to run our command flutter pre-burn. So this one are going to generate a mock file. Let's just see if now we got our mock file there, and if you check, we got our function like get trending search movie with query parameter and get popular movie. So now for example, let's just make sure if I dot this, that's normal. It is because I didn't import it yet, but let's just import it. And for example, now we got some errors. Okay, we need just to add late as keyword. So now if I dot this dot, for example, I'm going to say get yes, so we can say we got some function like get popular, get movie, and if I say search, so it means our mock are working pretty well. But if you want to run our test, for example, if I run flutter test, these are going to run all the tests, but yeah, it means like we got some tests we didn't pass. So movie remote data sources, no, so this is normal. We got some movie repository implementation, which it is here, but we didn't have movie repository implementation, so he can't find this one. So now our next step are going to implement our function. Function, we need to create our repository directly and implement it. So we are going to update I just missed this one there. So now we are going to create just our movie repository implementation and dev directly in it. Yes, now let's create this file in our repository. We are going to just create let's just call it movie repository implementation. Okay. Now we are going to initialize our class. Sorry. We are going to implement our movie repository, which is in our domain. If you remember, we have our movie repository abstract class, which just here. So we are going to just implement this one just here, and let's import it first. Then we say, oh, now you are missing 3 classes, so let's just create them directly. Nice. Now we are going just to, if you remember in our test, which is just here, our movie implementation need to have the remote data sources, and this one is, we are just going to inject and this is why people call most of the time like dependency injection, so it avoids us to call it every time in our code base. So we are just going to inject this all once directly in our repository implementation. So let's just initialize it directly just here, movie remote data source, and let's call it remote data source. So and for this one, let's just create a required file. So and these are going to be just the parameter. In this case, it is the mock, but these are going to be the parameter we're going to pass here. And now we are going to call our main function. So let's just start by initialize the list movie models. Yes. We are going to call our remote data source dot get popular movie, and this one let's just add at sync keyword. And this, if you remember, this one are going to return us a list of movie models. So let's just come here directly. We are going to have this, and now we are going to convert or to parse our movie models to we are going to parse our movie model to movie directly. So let's just initialize our list of movie, and now we are going to just call if you remember, we got there in, let me show you. Yes, model. Yes, that is what I was thinking. Now there is something I want us to do is we need, for example, in our movie models. Yes, first let me just write this. And these are going to help us to convert our model to entities. So then we are going to have our list. But you see there we got some error to entities isn't defined in movie models. But I mean, this is normal. We need to convert our model to entities. So let's just create two entities function. Yes. Yes, now, so now when we click on the model directly, we can see that it will convert our model to entities. So now let's just continue with our implementation. Now the big difference we are going to have is now we need to catch an exception, because in our implemented test, we are not just going only to test, for example, what is going to be true or not, but let's just continue with this one. Like we are going to return a movie, for example. So we are going to try to use this for trending. Almost the same. But yeah, now we got this parameter query just there, so now we can just pass it directly and return. So for example, now we are going to import our implementation. Let's just run our test now. Now that is normal. Let me just run some with terminal. I will run like flutter test directly. Okay, now let's say I got 3, some tests failed, but let's just delve in the repository. So they say the first one is instance of movie accept. Now actual instance of movie feature locate instance of movie. Okay. Yes. So this test is failing because we are trying to check if the result is equal to movie list, but the error is coming from Dart, because in Dart we can't just compare a class like that. For that we are going to use equatable with just dependencies. So let's just come here and write equatable flutter. We are going to check it, yes, and we are going to install the last version of equatable. So let's just delve in our pub spec, add equatable dependencies, make sure we are going to install it as we want, and once this is installed, we are going to move to the movie entities, and now we are going to just add equatable. So it are going to help us to make sure that in our test we are going just to compare the results. So they are going to compare the class. But yes, let's just extend our movie classes with equatable first. So let's just I think I wrote it well, but I wrote it well. Let's import. Yes, so we got a table here. They are going to say we need to add props, and sure, for example, we are going to add like title, ID, like we are going to add all the fields we got in our class. So let's just add overview and path, poster path. So yeah, I think these are going to be better. So let's just try to rerun our test to see if we are going to get some errors or not. So yeah, now our tests are saying that all of our tests are passing. That is a good news for us. So now let's just take the case we suppose that we are going to throw some errors, and we are going to see how we can just throw errors by using Dart lib. So our current tests are just checking all the success, tests. So now we want to know, for example, if we got some errors in our repository implementation. For example, if we want to throw an error, how we can handle it directly in our code. So let's just begin by adding, for example, a new test which are going to verify what should we return when we will get an error, for example. So let's just, I will say, add server failure when the call to remote data source is, for example, unsuccessful. So successful. Yes. So for this now, we are going just to and what we are going to check first and is, because let me just make sure something is good. I'm going okay. Yes, so in this case I'm going to check for get training first, and yeah, the process are going to be almost the same with get popular and search movie. So yeah, let me just copy this. We are going to do it. So let's get trending and say then we are going to throw a server exception. So let's just call it server exception. And this one, of course, we got an error, so we need to create a server exception first before continue to our code. But let's just try to create a server exception. I mean, now we got server exception, but let's just try to create a server failure. But for that, let's continue with the code first. We are going to check server exception. I'm going just to copy past this. These are going to be better. Yeah, sure. And we are going to check if the result are going to be equals to, yeah, so now what we are going, yes, okay. Now what we are going to do is our repository, we are going to refactor our repository later. So this one can throw on server failure if we got some errors, or for example, it can just throw on a movie list if everything is good. But currently now we are working in the case that we are going to return a server failure. So let's just try to create a server failure because we didn't have it yet. So yeah, we are going to add it in our core failure. So let me just create a server. Yes. now we can. And if we want to use this keyword, we need to add Dart directly. So Dart package, we need to add this one in our dependencies. So let's just, if we finish to install it, we can now import Dart. Yeah, okay. So this might be good, for example, so we can just copy this one and try to pass it if you want to test get popular, for example, and yeah, also search movie with query. I think I initialize a query, yeah, just there. So you can just okay. So now let me just check the error. This expression can be named. Try removing the name. Okay, now we are going just to export server exception. So for this error, I think this is just normal. I need just to remove this unnecessary async because we didn't need it, and yeah, we just need to import the exception because we are going to throw the exception. And currently, if we try to run this test, these are going, of course, to fail because it is normal. Now in our repository, we need to refactor our repository in case this can return server failure if we got some errors. So now let's just try to just return an error. So we are going to do something like this, move our code if everything is good, and if not, when we got like server exception error, for example, we are going just to return in our left, I'm going to return server failure, just simply. Yeah, and now if we want this to work, I mean, we need, and I think, yeah, we need to return failure and list of movie, but for this one we need to call, I don't know if they are going to have, yeah, you just import. So now we are going to do the same with all of our function. Let me just, I'm going to yes, and I'm going to use the same here. So that is normal. Now we got this because in our repository we need also to fix this in our repository. Let's just do it. So I'm going to move this file there, and yeah, of course there we need just to let's just copy all of this and replace them there. So now we fix our errors. Let's just try to run flutter test. Okay, I got errors. It is normal. I comment the rest of the code so I can fix the first one. Then I can apply the response to the other. So let's just dev directly. So we can see that the expect and actual are looking pretty similar, but even if these are look like we expected, but we got some error, and most of the time this error is due to the use of write directly here in the expect function, because with Dart package sometimes you can have this kind of issue. So we need to check to match exactly for the test to pass. So to correct this one, that is how either is intended to be used with that. So for example, we are going to replace equals, for example, with just is a. So let me just write it like this, and if I'm not saying wrong, we are going, yes, we need to add this, then we are going to add write failure and list of these. Then don't forget to add this at the end. So let's run our test again. Okay, now we can see that our test is pretty good. Now we are happy. So let's just apply the same thing on our other test. For example, we are going to have this one there, and just replace so get popular movie. Yeah, we are going to get let me comment this first. And those are going the same. I'm just trying to make sure that yes. So let's replace this also with so we got failure there. That is normal, I mean. Yes. So let's just rerun the test once again to verify. This say we expect failure movie. That is normal, but he got an instance of yeah. Okay. Yeah, so the problem is here we are saying that we are waiting for server failure, which is an extent, and the result which we are returning there is failure. So we need to return server failure directly. So let's just, so now we can see that our test is passing. If you want to make sure, you can just delete the order and use test. So yeah, so now we just need to almost do the same. So we are going there to make sure that everything is good. And here, if I run this, these are going to fail because we didn't change the return value, you know, in our implementation. So let return inside of failure, server failure there. Yeah, which is a subclass because server failure is extended by failure, so there won't be a problem. We can run this code and we can see that okay, now everything is going well. So we are checking our use case. If everything is good, our right side are going to return the list of movie and our left side are going to throw on server exception. So yeah, I think now we are good with our repository. Now we can delve into our presentation layer. Perfect. Now we are going to start with the presentation layer. So for that, we are going to start first of all with Bloc, and then later we are going to add our dependencies injection, and then finish with our design UI if you want. But yeah, let's just delve directly in our Bloc component. So we are going to create a folder. For example, what I'm going to do, I'm going to separate it in 3 subfolder, like trending movie, for example, and then I'll do the same with other 2. So yeah. Okay. Let's create, for example, search movies, and the last one, of course, will be popular movies. So we are going to start with, we can start with trend, for example, and yeah, we are going to start with event. We are going to create the event first, then initialize our state and finish with the block implementation. So yeah, let's just start. So we are going to create our state. So let's call it, for example, trend in movie. Sorry, state, for example. Yeah. Doing this, we're going just to initialize abstract class. Great. So now we are going to create our state. Oh, my bad. I just write. I need just to rename this file and call it event. Yeah. I miss it. So now we are going to create our state file. So yeah, let's just start by initialize our training. And load, for example, and in load, this one are going to be a little different because we are going to return if everything is good. We are going to just return loaded. Yeah, of course we need to import our entities, and now let's just copy paste this and call it error, for example, so we can catch if we have errors. And this one will be string, for example. So let's do the same with search movie and popular movie, for example. So I just copy paste this and call it popular movie event. And popular movie state, for example. We are going to do the same for search movie, but let's just finish with this one. And this one also are going to return in the movie list or just throw error if we got some error. So we are going to do the same with search, for example, but the little difference, let me just copy this. Oh, I forgot to but never mind, let's just continue. So yeah, but for our, let me just make sure that fetch popular movie. Yeah, so fetch search. Yeah, I forgot to write it. So for our event, this one are going to be a little different because we need to pass the query we want. Okay, now we got our search movie stat, and let's just of course, now we got our event and state, which we just create. Now we are going to just add a block, and I think this part are going to be complete. Yeah. Now let's start with trending movie. Okay, first let's create our block file. Let's call it like just trend movie block, so trending movie block. So for this one, we are just going to initialize our class. But of course, our block are going to take two parameters, which is our event and our state. So let's just initialize it. This. Now I can import this one too. We are going to install our block. Just we are going to add it in our dependencies, because if we check in pub spec, we didn't have block yet. So let's just continue, then we are going to add it. Of course, if you want, you can add it directly. So let's just initialize what we are going to need. I'll get trending movie. No. trending movie block. So this one we are going to pass it get trending movie. Nice. So of course we are going to return the failure, and if we got a failure we are going to call trending error. And the message here are going to be failure.string to string, so we can convert it. So I just forgot to call this because let me just check what the name I give to him. Okay, so fake trending movie and not trending movie only. So now trending, and yeah, currently I think this okay. So now let's just add block directly. So I'm just going to copy and paste flutter block version. So let's just run pip-get. Okay, everything look good. Now we are going to just write block to see if we can import, or we just need to copy paste import here. And now let's just replace this because we didn't write it well. So yeah, now we got our block which we just add directly. So now, and in our block what we are trying to do is just to initialize our block with some init state, which is just here in our state we just create before. And then when we are calling this event, we are going to emit some loading. So we are just waiting, for example, to check if we have already loaded our data or not. And if everything is good, we are going to return the list of our movie, or we are going to return an error if we got someone. So in parameter, of course, I'm passing just the use case we got. So if I click on it, yeah, we are going to just call this one. Of course, I can just write this to say get trendingmovie.call, but we don't need to use .call. So yeah, let's just do the same with movie search, for example, or we can just start with yeah, we can just copy paste and replace for popular. These are going to be easy, and there we just need to refactor and rename. So let's go our state, our event here, and then our state here. Same. So here, let's copy this and try to do the same with search. Of course, these one are going to be a little different as always, but let's just replace state. And here now we cut we call it let's just remember how we called our use case search movie. Yes, okay, so let's just call search movie, and just need to great. This sounds good, but we just need to pass in parameter the query, because of course these are going to take a query. Yeah, so now if you remember, so yeah, in this case we passed the query in parameter. So now everything look great for our block. So let's now delve directly in a main and try to add injection dependencies too. So yeah. Great. Now I have just create injection container file. This file you can add it, I mean, wherever you want. So it the most important is it need to be on the top of your architecture. So now we are going to add the get IT dependencies. Yeah, so let's just add it directly here. I can just copy paste it. Nice. So first of all, we are going to initialize it in this file, and it are going to be simply just import. If it didn't want to be imported, I will do it by myself. Of course. Okay, that's normal. Just never mind. This is my editor. But now let's just create our init function. And in this one, we are going to set up all the dependencies we will need for our project. So our block, use case, repository, and data sources. And of course, how we call it, for example, HTTP service. Yeah. So for those who really need to delve directly and understand what dependencies injection is it, I'm going to put the link in the description so you can check also the tutorial we have made on it to have more explanation. So yeah. So in this case, we need to pass a parameter, so get popular movie. So in our case, these are going to dependence injection. So this one we need to pass the repository. So okay. Yeah, I can just do it like this. And for our repository, this one we just need to pass. This one are going to need remote data source if you remember, but So yes. And the last one, let's just, because we are just going to need HTTP client. Yeah, let's just copy. So yeah, now I think we are good for our design. So yeah, let's just create and use our design like we want. Great. Now I just print my main, so I call init there, and I just put an empty container for now. So I have created a movie list just there, and this movie list is just an component, so we are going to use this component to display we are just going to use this component to display our movie list, and this is the where we are going to use. But yeah, now let's just create our movie. So we are going to call it directly in our project. So let's create our movie screen and then trying to call just a movie list, so and this one, yeah. So let's call it, for example, I'm just going to start with popular movie screen, and we are going to display this one. Okay, so yeah, let's create a class. So in this one, we are just going to return, let's create a scaffold, and can suppose that we are just going to return, for example, Bloc builder. I'm going to have our block and state. We need to import our block, so let's just come here, and I'm going to copy paste the import. So you can say, for example, if we are in the loading, or if you are trying to load something, we can return a circular progress bar, and yes, so for example, if we got the good response, we can return our movie list, for example. So, and this one, just going to call our state.movie to get it, and if there is any of our case, we are just going to return empty container. So yes, and now we are just going to move to our main and try to just call our popular screen, but this one we can import it, but if we try to run our project, is not going to work, because we need first of all to use Bloc provider, so we can create an instance of our Bloc, for example. Let me just import Bloc. Great. Now I think if we run this, if there is no error, our app are going to work well. So this is taking a little time, but yeah, no, I think it's good. Great. So now we got the first parameter returned by the API, and yeah, that is pretty interesting. And like always at the end of our tutorial, I'm not going to implement the other function like search movie screen or trending movie screen, but I'm going to build the rest of the design or UI myself and push it directly on the GitHub. So I will put the GitHub link in the description. And if you want to clone the project or add start, if you want, you can do the exercise by yourself, trying to just complete and design your app like whatever you feel it or you want. And if not, if you want to use mine, like I used to say in the beginning of the video, you can just directly go to the GitHub and clone it, and you are going to have it like this. So thanks again for watching. Please guys, don't forget to subscribe if you like your content. If you want us to talk about more topic, and yeah, don't hesitate to. Thanks again, and see you for the next episode. Thanks.